Welcome, everybody, to the last panel of Day 2 BRIC Summit. And we are going to do AMA Creative Entrepreneurship description. Have you have questions about building a creative career or running your own business? You're going to join us today and basically get to ask anything, practical advice from industry experts, these beautiful humans on the screen, from anything from production and career growth to legal and business essentials. So I'm going to have the panelists start introing themselves. I will start with Michelle, and then I'll have her popcorn it over to whoever she would like after that.
Okay, well, I am so excited to be here. I am Michelle Duffie, and I'm the CEO of D3 Entertainment Group. I am also the CEO of Top 3 Sports Group, and I am the CEO of M6 Real Estate. So the majority of our focus is entertainment, film, TV marketing. I've been in that space for 25 plus years, and all of the other things are just the fun pieces of entertainment that I love to touch. So that's me. And I'm in Nashville. So
Oh, well, thank you for, it must be a little late over there. So
well, it's
thank you
six
for,
o'clock. It's 6 o'clock,
okay,
and
it's
I'm
not too bad.
sniffling because here in Tennessee, the pollen is all over the space today. So it has
Mm.
it has come down on me in a major way. But yeah, six
Well,
o'clock, not too late.
you sound great. So I want to know.
Yeah.
Who would you like to popcorn it to?
I'm gonna popcorn it to Leah because I can see her beautiful face in my screen.
Oh,
She's
thank you,
right
Michelle.
beside me. You're
I
welcome.
appreciate that. So hi guys, my name is Leah Stevenson. I'm an entertainment, IP, and business attorney in LA. I'm originally from Houston, but I went to college and law school in Miami. So if I have anybody in the chat from Houston or Miami or LA, we have connections there. I regularly advise clients, talent, entertainment companies, creators, actors, music artists, mostly talent in the entertainment industry, helping to negotiate their high stakes deals and just facilitating their long-term career goals as well. So I'm really excited to be here and to hear from all these esteemed panelists, but to also provide any guidance that I can as well. So I'm going to popcorn it over to Gladys.
Hi, I'm Gladys Stennis-Mixon, and I've been in the entertainment industry 20 plus years, let's put it that way, working for many major studios. And I'm now in the midst of handling independent productions as a accountant on the various shows, as well as working for some of the small as an advisement council to some of the major studios, such as Paramount, Skydance, as well as Columbia, or sorry, not Columbia, but Warner Brothers, Discovery, and then, of course, the Walt Disney Company, particularly with Hulu right now.
Beautiful. That's amazing. And I'm Alison Mann. I'm co-founder of the BRIC Foundation, and I've been in the animation industry for 25 years. Kim, right on time. Popcorning it to you.
Hi, everybody. Oh, just a quick intro.
Quick intro.
Hi. Okay. Hi, I'm Kim Wright. I am a co-founder of Double Take Casting and Consulting, and also a children's animation producer, senior producer.
Beautiful. Well, thank you all for joining us. And thank you for everybody who joined us from all around the world for this, like I said, last panel of the day. I think it's a very important topic, especially as the industry is shifting, being a lot more entrepreneurial, like whether you're in the studio or a business setting, or you're trying to start your own thing. I think like you always need to be thinking outside the box and always like pushing yourself to think different ways. And how do you go about this? So I would love, this isn't all, but I'm going to start with one human. I'm going to start with you, Kim, since go in reverse of joining. What's one thing you wish every creative understood before trying to make money from their work?
Okay, one thing. There's so many things.
I know.
If I had to pick one, probably that it doesn't happen overnight. Definitely, you have to give it time. A lot of businesses, take a couple of years even to become profitable. So don't expect like, this is even if you put your all in, to just be patient. And also I would say give yourself some grace. There's a lot, oftentimes you learn as you go, as you build your business. So that's definitely something to think about. And I would also say to meet as many people as you can to expand your network, that's super, super important. That's probably two things, but
I love that. Would you say like, from what I've heard, it's like 3 to 5 years before your
yeah,
business is, and I think it has something to do with brand in general. Like I think of like how Microsoft and Apple started like in a garage, right? With one product, but it took a while because you're like gaining trust from consumers and everything else. But
right.
like hitting it on that end, I think is,
Yeah,
and to
and
give yourself,
that too, but they do say, and I know I've read this before, that sometimes it's really sadly more about, just like distribution and marketing than it is about the actual product or service. Someone could have something that you feel like, oh gosh, well, that's really expanding well, and you feel like you've maybe got a leg up even or on that. But sometimes it's like something that's good enough that has a very strong, marketing and is positioned well, might, outdo, so to speak, something that might technically be a better idea, but if not enough people know about it, or you're not getting the word out, then that could hinder you. So marketing and kind of getting the word out and networking is super, super important.
I always like correlate it to like a game of Pokemon. It's just like instead of Pokemon, you're collecting humans.
Yes.
Um, Gladys, what do you think? What's your take on that?
Um, I basically feel that, based on what was just recently said, that you do need to network as much as you can with specific people that you may come across in the industry, and also possibly contact those people that you're interested in dealing with in the industry and figure out how they made it and what they
Mm,
did and how they did it.
I love that. I think I often say the more specific you are in your asks of people, if you're going to reach out, like be intentional, not just like broad, of like the ask, if you're going to take somebody to coffee. Sometimes I think like people reach out to me, I don't know about you ladies, but they are like, tell me about X. And it's very like a lot. And we're all very busy. But if you give me something very specific, I can digest that and be more, I guess, uh, pinpointed to how I can help. Michelle, I feel like you were going to jump in there. I feel like that was resonating with you.
Well, yeah, what I would say, I absolutely agree with you, but I think the idea that you have to pick one lane to be successful keeps people boxed in sometimes. Your skill set, especially as a creative, is transferable. And so when you get in a space with other creatives, something may resonate with you that you didn't even think about. It's in your scope. But that versatility will allow you to see opportunities where other people see obstacles.
Mm-hmm.
So not boxing yourself in as a creative will help to open up your eyes and your windows to other opportunities that are right in front of you. So I would say this to people who are listening who feel like um, they're confused about their direction. Purpose really calls you. And so even if it's not your major, if it's not something that you are really familiar with, but if you're passionate about it, start leaning into that direction. And I think that passion speaks much louder and your skill set will develop as you go down that path. So just don't get stuck on, this is just the one thing that I have to do. Step outside of the box and see what life has to present to you in that space.
I love that. It's almost like leading with curiosity instead of
Yeah.
shutting down the doors. Always take the meeting. And Leah, how about you?
Just building on that, I completely agree. I think defining your purpose and also your passion is super important. Staying consistent. People say consistency, consistency all the time, but really, you're not going to see results instantly. So when you stay consistent and you have that discipline, over time, those results will compound, right? The work and effort that you're putting in will compound. And then one other thing that I would say is be mindful of who you're receiving advice from, because oftentimes we'll go to people that are in our circle because they're close to us, but they're not necessarily working on the same types of things we are. Perhaps we have really big dreams and they're very lofty. And when we speak to other people, they want the best for us, but they may instill a bit of doubt where we already have it. And so I think sometimes speaking to people outside of your network or people that maybe are already where you want to be can be more helpful than perhaps going to your best friend who sometimes has her own imposter syndrome or is already fearful about her own trajectory. She's going to wish you well and she's going to tell you things, but some of that advice may be rooted in doubt because she herself is doubtful. So when you go to somebody who perhaps has already gone through these struggles, these adversities, their advice is going to hit a little bit different than someone who is afraid to take the leap in their own life.
I love that. And do you feel like it's kind of like an echo chamber then too, if you stay like within your core
Yes,
group
I
sometimes?
think so. And then I think, even, as someone who's represents creators, I, go through this on my own sometimes as well. And I have to be very mindful of who I'm seeking that advice from because you can you can say it to someone else and what they can reinforce is the doubt that you already have within yourself. So you're like, you know what? I actually should just not do it. They were totally right. That was what you were already thinking. But you may need somebody that is outside of yourself and that is further along on that path to tell you, no, you're on the right track. I felt super doubtful in year one as well. I'm in year five, and I'm telling you it pays off. But if you're talking to somebody who's never taken that leap themselves, you may just be talking to the doubtful version of yourself that already exists inside.
I love that. I'm going to actually have you keep unmuted because I'm going to hit you with the next question and I'm going to circle back around. So,
Sure.
what do you think is the biggest misconception about creative entrepreneurship?
I think that I think one of the biggest misconceptions about creative entrepreneurship is that it's going to be extremely more difficult than perhaps staying in a 9 to 5. Obviously, they both have their own caveats and they all have their own pros and cons. But sometimes people are fearful to step out on creativity, on their passions, because they feel like, oh my gosh, there's no blueprint. I don't know what I need to be doing next, X, Y, and Z. But sometimes you get job opportunities and you're stepping into that job. And yes, you had skills and maybe certifications and things like that, but you're learning along the way as well. And so I think sometimes we can talk ourselves out of it, or other people can talk us out of stepping out on faith and taking that leap towards the business goals that we have because we don't see a blueprint. But just because a 9 to 5, which I am very happy to work one, just because the 9 to 5 gives you a little bit of structure and things like that, you can create structure on your entrepreneurship journey. So it doesn't have to be as fearful as perhaps your 9 to 5. I think both have their own, ups and downs. And I think it's also very fearful when you're in a 9 to 5 and you want to step out and seek another job opportunity. But sometimes we don't correlate them the same. And so oftentimes because the entrepreneurship route is a little bit less uncharted, or some people don't have as much guidance for it, people instill fear in that path when that may be exactly your purpose.
I feel like to that, it's like feel of false security. As somebody who worked in the studio system for years and then created my own thing, it's like, and I've seen it all the time as people are like, I'm going to stay in my traditional world because I get all the things. I have the blueprint, I have the structure, but you're also at the whim of whatever that company decides. They can lay off 1,000 people and you could be one of them. So it's like, do you want to be the keeper of your own destiny and like kind of build it, or are you like, I feel like we're conditioned to
Absolutely.
believe that structure is our purpose sometimes.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah, cool. Gladys, on to you.
Yeah.
What do you think is the biggest misconception?
Um, I think when you go into an entrepreneurial and you've come from a corporate background, it's truly like night or day in that now you almost have to go through what I call feast or famine.
Mm.
And so to really be successful in it, you really have to put your heart and heart into it. And I also think you have to be in a position where you have to confront any adversity as positively as you can to continue to go forward. Because so many people, when they make that transition, because a corporate good job, it's a paycheck every week, every 2 weeks, month, or however you're being paid. If you don't have that consistent income coming in, but yet you don't have the ability to get the drive behind it to get the income coming in, then you will have a very hard time being successful in the entrepreneurial game, particularly in entertainment.
It's very true. Thank you, Gladys. And how about you, Michelle? Is Michelle frozen?
Yes,
Oh,
I'm going to lean back into what Leah said. I think, one of the misconceptions is that it's easy. But there is, I don't know what this pill is that we take as entrepreneurs that just pushes us forward, right? It's an optimistic mindset that you set up for yourself that I can do this. Um, I was blessed to have incredibly successful entrepreneurs as I was coming into the business in my 20s that I worked for. So while it was a 9 to 5, I was working for an entrepreneur in many facets of the entertainment space. So I worked with an attorney who happened to be an entertainment attorney. So I saw him do his entertainment, but he was an entrepreneur. So those types of things, as Leah said, like surrounding yourself with people who are can-do people, there's something that attaches itself to you, and you understand that when the wind is blowing to the north, you just shift a little bit. When it's down tide, you kind of rise when the tide comes up. But it's like the EKG lifeline. It is, you're living when life is moving this way. If it's flat, and listen, no shade to 9 to 5ers, that is the lifeblood of what life is, but it seems to be, kind of like this. You go in, 5 o'clock comes, you punch out. But entrepreneurship looks more like life. It's up, it's down, it's up, it's down, but it's life, it's living. And so don't be dissuaded from the flow of entrepreneurship, because if that's really what your life craves, you'll never have satisfaction doing anything else. And so it is,
Mm.
you bite the bullet, and that bullet propels you forward. So that's what I would say. Like, just, man, if you want to do it as a creative, there's no sweeter place than being in the place that you're supposed to be. So,
Thank you for sharing. That's beautiful.
sure, sure.
Kim.
Yes. I'm like soaking in all these.
I know. I'm like, I'm learning too.
When you talked about, Michelle, about the punching out and how that's stable and it, but there really is no punching out. But it's like, you make that time, obviously you take, your breaks and your vacations, but it's like then that whole feast or famine really resonated because it's a sacrifice. You might have to sacrifice some things to get your business up and going, but back to the misconception, the one I was thinking about most, probably because it's pertaining a lot to me as well, is that it's never too late to start, I mean, the misconception is that it's too late often, you know, or I'm too old, or been in this business too long, or I've been in another business for too long. You know, it's too late to pivot or to reinvent yourself. You know, and we all procrastinate. Everyone's guilty of procrastinating and wishing that you had done something 5 years ago or 10 years ago, you know. But I think it really isn't ever too late to do it. You know, and to really just focus on not, you know, what you could have, should have, would have done, but just kind of moving forward, you know, and just like running your own race, so to speak, you know, and just another small example, like my mother, I look back at my mom who, you know, had a long career in advertising, and then she retired and worked a little part-time, like at a department store selling fragrance, but she's an artist by nature. She's always been an artist, went to art school. And it wasn't until she was in her 70s that she started creating jewelry and magnets and other things. And she opened an Etsy shop, you know, so she technically became an entrepreneur at that age. And people may not think that that's, you know, like, oh, I can't do that. So again, it's never too late to reinvent yourself or figure out what your passion truly is and just go for it.
I love that. And I don't know if you all felt this. I thought of it, but when after being in this like in a structured corporate setting and like being identified with that corporation
Yeah.
or with that job title, my fear was, will people take me seriously after I jump ship? If I'm not connected to that
Mhm.
job and that brand, will people still respond? And then the answer
Yeah.
is yes. But I don't know if you ever felt that, but like that was one of my fears. And I think that's
Yeah.
also a misconception because I think people believe in you as your brand, not the company or the job title.
Yes. Yeah. I definitely have felt that before.
Yeah. This is a Kim Ford question. What did your career path actually look like, and what were the pivots that you had?
Um, well, shortest version would be I definitely had pivots along the way, but I started out in actually daytime talk shows. I mean, you know, I don't know how far back you want me to go, but majored in radio and television. Became my first job out of college was a NBC page, so I was giving the tours at the studios. And working, you know, on different assignments like the Today Show and nightly news. So that was sort of my getting my foot in the door. And then from there, I stayed at NBC, but it was very administrative. And I wanted to really get into television production. And but I didn't know exactly where or how. So again, started kind of like seeing who was working in different places, and landed in the lovely world of talk shows, daytime talk shows. So I worked for Montel Williams and Queen Latifah and a whole bunch of other shows. And I stayed in that for quite a while until I had my son. Uh, and I left that. It was very stressful. And, you know, at home watching a lot of kids programming. And when he was little, I was like, okay, you know what? I am going to pivot. And try to get into that side, which was a very big jump, you know. And after much doings, I ended up at Sesame Street as a film producer. So I was commissioning the short films, the letter and number films, and some other content for Sesame. And I stayed there for 11 years. So when you talked about getting like being associated with a brand, and that's, you know, what I felt like, what I can't leave. How am I ever gonna, you know? So stayed in kids for quite a while, again, Sesame Street, and then ended up at GBH Kids working with Darlene on Work It Out Wombats, and stayed in kids, and you know, through a series of events, I really I love to produce television. I'm also interested in development, but I kind of fell into casting while at Sesame, kind of unofficially started doing it, then started doing it kind of on a freelance basis. Also did it a bit while at GBH on different projects there. And I was told, and it felt silly to me at the time when people would say it, they're like, this is your superpower, you know? And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, I knew I was passionate about it, but to hear other people see that I guess I lit up, even my husband was like, okay, you must be on one of your casting assignments. You're really like excitedly telling me about this kid that you just cast, you know? So those type of things were happening. And I'm like, you know what? Again, time for a pivot. And sometimes it's life takes that course though. My job at GBH ended. And I was like, there's no time like the present to really do this. Like, if I'm going to do it, what's stopping me now? I can't say I'm too busy doing X, Y, and Z. It's time to do it. And I partnered with a good friend of mine who's an actress and a writer, and we kind of talked about like we have different skill sets, but should we do this together? And that is how Double Take Casting and Consulting was formed very, very recently. So this is still kind of
Congratulations.
new for me. Yeah. Yeah.
But you did it.
I did
very
it.
inspiring.
I did it, but I think I needed that boost, I needed, because I've been talking about doing it, for quite a while, but it was just kind of that kick that I needed probably to do it. And also
love it.
going through the motions of like, oh, can I really do it? It's the two kids, life is busy, college is coming up for one of them. You can find all these excuses, but I said, I have to at least give this a shot, and now's the time. So
Well, I'm sure it fills your bucket, which is
yeah.
also very important. We have this life once. We
Yes,
can dictate
exactly.
a lot more. We have a lot more agency than
Yes.
So good on you.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Gladys, this one for you. What are the biggest financial mistakes you see creatives make early on?
I would say that some of the biggest mistakes I have is that people haven't correctly set themselves up into some form of either a LLC, single member, which I'm not crazy about, but they are out there, a multi-member LLC, a small business or an S corp, and then of course a corporation, depending on the amount of the revenue streams that you have. And so that's a major thing that I see, especially being an 871 accountant, and people are coming through saying, oh, that's all I'm going to make. I mean, how can I get more money? I'm like, well, you should have talked to your financial advisor or accountant and see what they propose based on the amount of income that you are bringing in or have brought in. So I would say finances is the organization and setup of the particular person. The other thing is, I don't think people really spend enough time to determine what type of role they can fall into to hopefully make good revenue streams. Now, recently, that's been very difficult with, SAG going on strike, the writers, yeah. I mean, they've all gone on strike to some, um, and have been difficult. So it's been difficult for people to really survive and bring in the bacon. But I would say the most problems I've seen is how they have set themselves up.
Well, what is like how do you know when to set it up as that, and then what type? Is it based off of who you go into business with? Is it based on how much money you're bringing in? Like how do you pull the trigger on something
I
like that?
I would first pull the trigger if you're an actor or an actress. I would first sit down with my financial advisor and say, look, this is the money I've brought in the last 2 or 3 years. Okay. What do you recommend me to maximize on the amount of income I can get in and retain? And I would say that's very similar for a director as well. If you're in business for yourself, I think did I lose you guys?
No, you're
Hello?
there.
Okay. I think if you're in business for yourself, where a couple of accountants get together, or possibly a couple of lawyers get together, once again, I would try and determine um, what I anticipate my revenue streams to be for a given period. And if you've got a partner, you got to sit down and say, okay, these are the either the companies or the businesses that you're going to go to and see what's realistic so that you guys can determine what your profit may or may not be. So that's from a corporate standpoint. If you're somebody below the line, such as, let's say, a director of photography or something like that, then I think you need to sit down again with your financial advisor and look at what your streams of income have been over the last couple of years. And then he or she should advise you, this is what you should do to maximize your money, whether you stay as a individual or if you should go into some kind of a company setup.
Thanks, Gladys. Those are some great hot tips. Appreciate it. Leah, next. If someone can't afford a lawyer yet, what are the must-do basics to protect themselves?
Totally. This is such a great question because lawyers can be really expensive. And oftentimes, you may just be getting started. That's not the funds that you want to allocate towards legal representation. So, one of the things that I would say to do is to learn the business that you're working in. Oftentimes, what lawyers are doing, we're obviously doing documentation, but sometimes we're also providing that business guidance. It has the legal edge, which is why the lawyer's providing it, but it's really that's why you see sometimes lawyers that work in labels, they're the business and legal affairs team. They're not just advising on the legalese, but they're also providing you business guidance that sometimes touches the legal industry. So learning the business can really help. Say for instance, you get books on it or you're, further educating yourself. That's going to allow you to understand the nuances of the business that you are in, the industry that you're in, and it can help you kind of hopefully not fall into some of the risks and liabilities that other people that don't know the business that they're operating in would, experience. One of the other things that I would advise is to stay organized. So you may not have the ability to retain a lawyer, but keeping up with all of your communications. Maybe you were speaking to a third party and you guys had written agreements in the sense of our emails, right? Those are still legally binding when you're agreeing to certain confirmed terms and things of that nature. Not as, enforceable as an actual signed, fully executed agreement with all the substantive provisions, but there's still communications that delineate what you and this third party agreed to. But if you can't find that, and you can't remember where it's at, then that's not going to be extremely helpful. Keeping together all of your tax documentation, like Gladys was saying, keeping together all your communications relating to your engagements with third parties, the things that you're working on, that's half the battle because once you finally have the ability to retain these teams, the CPAs, the financial advisor, the lawyers, the agents, the managers, they're going to ask you for this stuff. And now you're going to take days, sometimes weeks, sometimes months, or you may not be able to find it because you forgot if it was on text. Did you get a phone number, don't have access to it? Is it in your email? Did you get a new email, don't have access to that? So keeping things in one place, file systems, things of that nature, whether electronic or actually physical files, which I know nobody's keeps anymore, but I certainly do. Keeping those things in one place are so helpful. I think that would, that's half the battle right there. And then obviously, I wouldn't necessarily advise starting to do legal stuff on your own, but you are learning the business, right? And if you take the time to educate yourself and you kind of understand some of these things, you may be able to take strides towards some of the legal goals that you have without having a lawyer. So with the rise of AI, I'm not telling you to go consult Chat or Claude and have Claude be your new lawyer. Please don't do that. Especially with Chat and stuff. Sometimes people bring us contracts and they're like, can you revise this for me? And I'm like, is this from Chat? I can tell. It hasn't gotten there yet, but not to say that it won't. But even if you feel like, okay, I can't retain a lawyer, but you have AI tools that maybe you found a contract online, a template, or perhaps you're asking these AI tools to help you kind of get some type of one-page agreement together where the two parties are going to sign that. That's a lot better than having a verbal agreement or a handshake agreement, because if that other party breaches the terms of the agreement that you had, it was verbal. How are you going to prove that that was even, a contract? So there's definitely things and systems in place that you can take, steps that you can take where you don't have an attorney just yet, but you're still taking strides towards having an organized business to where when you are able to retain legal counsel, when you're able to have an agent or a manager, CPA or financial advisor, they're stepping into something that is pretty much fully automated. And they see that you're not just very serious about your business, but serious about keeping your business structured, compliant, and organized as well.
I love that. As far as like legal documents, like how do you feel about things like LegalZoom or like anywhere else that you might be able to find templates and stuff if you're not going to use like chat, which I
For
do.
sure. So I know some people use like LegalZoom sometimes for like entity formation, or they use it for other things, or there's other companies out there that can provide you those templates. If you feel that that template that you're getting for the price is okay and that's what you're willing to pay at that time, it's certainly, I would kind of look into what is going to be in that agreement to make sure you're not paying $300 for a template that you could have found online on Google. But it's definitely going to be better than not having agreement at all. And of course, as you're learning the business, you may look at that template, Word document form, and say, hey, I actually going to add this other clause. I'm going to change the governing law provision because I know that I live in Washington and this governing law says California. But you wouldn't have necessarily known to even look and change that had you not understood the business, understood the complexities of the contract you're looking at. So I wouldn't say go out there and start doing the unauthorized practice of law, but there's certain things that you can definitely do to help yourself, help your company. And you can definitely use companies like a LegalZoom or those other companies that offer template agreements. And you can also adapt them and add certain clauses in there that you and that other party agreed to that maybe that template doesn't, contemplate that for you. But you can certainly take strides in your career in the legal aspect to make sure that you're organized and staying up to speed. And then once you have the ability to now have a team around you and to retain an attorney, they can come in and say, for instance, you had that agreement with John, and that was the agreement you guys signed. If that agreement needs to be revised, your lawyer can either void that agreement or you guys can just sign an amendment that has a few other contractual terms that should have been in there. But at the end of the day, at least you and John have that agreement in place. So if either party breaches it or violates it, you have something to fall back on. And you don't have to have a lawyer to take those strides towards your business. And that's the pitfall that some people fall in. Oh, if I don't have a lawyer, I don't need to have I can't have any documentation. You probably should try to have some documentation, even if you're drafting something that is short, simple, and sweet.
I love it. Thank you. That's
You're welcome.
awesome.
Of course.
All right. Michelle, ready for your question?
I'm ready.
Drum roll. Okay. What are some realistic ways creatives can market themselves without a big budget?
Okay. Realistic ways. I'm going to speak some inspiration to the creators that are listening. Just do something. So a lot of us sit on stuck mode when we are creators, but perfectionism kills productivity. So you have to start moving forward. I would say that looks like creative collaboration. I believe Leah talked earlier about networking. And so your creative space could be your mentors, could be people in your circle, could be the internet, could be YouTube, inspirational videos, but that creative circle is going to push you to movement. And so now that we're moving, we're headed somewhere on our journey. Um, when you produce something, to be able to put marketing around it looks like word of mouth. These are the most inexpensive ways you can do anything. There are people, and oftentimes when we don't speak to what it is that we need, when we don't collaborate with other people, you stay stuck. There could be someone in your circle right now, or someone within your ability to touch them that can help you elevate your YouTube channel, that can help you edit your video better if you want it to be edited differently, that can push you forward to an internship in a space that would expand your network. And as Leah said, I keep referring to Leah because I look forward to knowing more about you, Leah. But
Mm.
when you learn your space and you learn a skill set, all of a sudden, all of the people in that space, you start to get familiar with them. Um, this is the day and age where you can reach out to just about anybody in a social media DM. I've reached out to people DMs and they will respond. So just don't be stuck. Like you've got to get off your couch, get away from the naysayers maybe in your circle who could be afraid of what it is that you're doing. Get around some bold-minded people, some can-do people, some people who are living in a best case scenario. That's their mentality. Everything that they are looking forward to, there's hope and faith attached to what that is. And when you have that kind of force and power around you, it's going to propel you forward because your mindset is, I can do it, I'm going to do it. The types of things that will elevate your idea are usually people resources. So it's not so much about, I can't write a $50,000 check for something, but do you have people in your space that have $50,000 ideas and you all can start to have a think tank where you may be stuck on your limited level of thinking, which we all are listen, we're constant learners. So you always need thinkers around you. But start reaching out to those people around you that are thinkers and start brainstorming. How can I do, or what should I do, or how did you? And those things, those types of answers that are coming from the circle around you, or even online, will just propel you to start moving. So my answer for what can you do without a big budget is do something. Again, forget about the idea of being perfect when you're doing it because you'll stay stuck forever. But just produce something in your space and set a timeline for that. Like say this week, like by next Friday, this idea that I've been holding on to, I'm going to do something with that, whether it's writing 10 steps or whether it's creating a video for your YouTube channel with your iPhone, which is exactly all you need to do that. But do something, whether it's taking your iPhone out to film a concept because you've been wanting to do um, the episode one of something. Just start talking it out, start moving. I believe that as you move, the moving train is what people want to get. They want to jump on the moving train. When you're stopped, nobody wants to get on with you because you're not going anywhere. So I am so hopeful that I'm inspiring you to step away from your comfort zone of stillness and to jump on the bandwagon of movement. Because once you're moving, you will attract other movers and then you all will start going forward. So I didn't answer the question specifically, but what I'm talking to is if you're not moving, nothing is happening. And movement is going to create and attract everything that you need to um, elevate your space, elevate your idea, elevate your concept. So I'm so hopeful that the younger creators that are listening and some of us old heads are inspired to just move a step further this week. And take the blockers off, take the blinders off, because whatever it is that you want to do, I promise you, it's already inside and you can do it. So just be inspired, be encouraged, and that's it.
I love
But
it.
now I'm so long-winded, so you have to
No,
like
no, no.
two
It's
seconds for
perfect.
me and shut me down.
No, it's perfect. I also think I'm gonna go with our last question, which I'm going to give you like kind of one step because you already gave us so many amazing steps, which is like, so the next question is, if someone in the audience wants to start something today, what is the 3 steps they should take? I mean, you've already mentioned produce something, moving, like be around, like what is one more thing that you think, like something you did for yourself, like outside of those things, like what is like one big anchor that you had for yourself?
As simple as this sounds, I am one who makes lists. And so I write down what it is that I want, what I am aspiring to, and I put it in front of me so that I can see that. Like that becomes a focus and a focal point for me so that I can focus towards a thing. And that helps me to not be distracted when other things come. Like I believe that opportunities are abundant, but if it is not in alignment and assignment with what you want to do, you'll find yourself veering off to opportunities. And you'll miss what it is that you're going for. So make a list, a focus list. Like these are the things that I'm looking for. And I believe those things that you're looking for will start to get in your viewpoint, right? You'll start to see those things and you'll know, hey, that aligns with my assignment and that is what I'm going to move towards. Because opportunities sometimes will pull you off track and you'll wake up 20 years later and like, well, this is not what I wanted to do. But an opportunity came, you saw a paycheck and you veered to the left. And so this conversation is for creators who know that they want to be creative, that maybe they want to be entrepreneurs. So you need to keep focusing on those things that are pushing you towards your calling.
I love it. It's all about accountability and making yourself. Yeah, I love it. Leah, coming to you. What are 1 to 3 things that you feel
I
they
absolutely
should
love
take?
what Michelle said about, just taking that step. I'm very guilty of this as well. I'm like a recovering perfectionist. And so what
Mhm.
I've learned is that I'm someone that's constantly writing things down, constantly planning, but I've learned that over planning is actually just another form of procrastination because you're never getting to the
Mm.
execution stage. And so I'm forcing myself out of this in my own comfort zone. So I would implore other people to think of that. One other thing that I like recently thought about and I've heard other people say is that ideas don't belong to you. So you may get an idea in your mind, and I'm very guilty of this. I get ideas, and instead of executing on it right away, I write it down because I'm a list person, I'm a planner person, I'm a notebook person. I'm writing everything down and I'm going to get to it later. And so ideas don't belong to you. And so I don't know this has probably happened to you guys before where you get an idea, you don't execute on it. Days, months, weeks later, you see someone doing the same thing you had an idea about because the idea didn't belong to you. And I'm a true believer in God in the sense, so if you believe in God, the universe, whatever you believe in, right? But I believe that God gives me that idea, right? I don't execute on it. That idea doesn't belong to me. Just like copyright law doesn't protect ideas, it protects unique, works of authorship. So you didn't execute on the idea flowed from your mind into somebody else. Somebody else is going to execute it. And sometimes it's not the person that knows the most, that's the most knowledgeable, it's the person that's the quickest to execute. So be quick to execute on your ideas. Obviously, think them through and brainstorm, but don't get analysis paralysis like I've suffered with many times before, where you get so stuck in the planning phase that you never execute because you'll wake up and your year will look the same that it was the last year because you never executed. All you did was write a bunch of notes.
Love it. Thank you. Gladys?
Um, there's a lot of things that I consider. I'm part of that person that keeps a list. I call it my daily to-do list. And I come back to it listening to what has to be done daily, weekly, and monthly. That's just me. And I'm the old time way of keeping a calendar, if you will. That helps me because that gives me my goals further out from a 3 month to 6 month to a yearly goal. And then you always have those far and few reachable goals that I think that it goes more than 1 year. So I normally kind of do a 1 to 3 to 5 year plan. And that's what I do. And it's been very, very effective and helpful for me. And then the other thing I think what people should do is they should see what other areas that they are good at that may be consistent revenue that will help out. For example, I'm a big one on doing taxes during tax season because that supplement some of the income that I could be waiting on or anticipating to get further down the line that I have not received. So I just kind of, being that I am an accountant by trade, I do a bunch of different things to keep me afloat.
I love it. Thank you. And then rounding out Kim, the newest
Yeah.
to starting her own thing.
Yes. Well, not to jump on the list and the to-do list bandwagon, but I get laughed at in my household by my husband and it's about how many lists does mom need, how many lists does mom have. So I feel the
Do you
same
feel
as you
seen?
ladies. What's that?
I said, do you feel seen?
I feel so seen. I like want to like just you know talk more about these lists. But no, yes, and I need to see. I have to physically cross off the things on the list, or else I feel like you know, I did not accomplish what I needed to accomplish. Unfortunately, the things that don't get crossed off end up being rewritten down on the next list. So it's a cycle, but I would say as far as some different steps people should take, I mean, this again goes back to what we were talking about before. First and foremost, make sure that it's your business or what it is that you're pivoting to is something that truly excites you. It brings you passion. And just really energizes you. So that's probably step one. And I would also say, and I know this has been said, but talking to others who are doing it, talking to others who have done what you're or something similar to what you're thinking of doing, and don't be afraid to talk to people, don't be afraid to pick their brains, and whether it's a mentor or whether it's someone that you don't really know that well but is you feel you could gain some knowledge, you know, from. Yeah, Amanda and I did that just recently. You know, we met with someone that I knew and I had worked with a little bit, but I didn't know her that well, but she's been doing what we're trying to do for a long time. And it was really just to gain some insight. And it was such an inspiring conversation. She didn't feel like, oh gosh, you know, it was women helping each other, you know, and we were just so glad that we did, you know, and she was receptive and gave us some really good pointers and good advice in terms of how we can build our business from someone who's been doing it for many years. So don't be afraid to talk to people. And also I would say to do research, do your research and find out you know, from in terms of like what else is out there that's similar to what you're doing or what your business is and how you can kind of set yourself apart a little. Is there a like, kind of a niche that you can work with and make yourself a little bit different, differentiate yourself from what's out there,
Would you say a
however that is.
SWOT
Yeah.
analysis would be important?
What's that?
A SWOT analysis
Yeah,
of your
you
business?
know,
Yeah.
exactly,
Go
exactly.
old
You want to
school. Yeah.
Exactly. You want to just do something that's going to make people go, oh, they have something new to offer. You know, they might be
Mm.
doing what others are doing, but there's a little something a little bit different about that particular business.
Love it. I think this will be for the whole group, but I think it kind of ducktails into what you were saying, Kim, about like asking people, and it's something the whole group was kind of mentioning throughout their conversation, but there is a question from the audience that says, what are some good rules, good rule of thumb to approach new people to ask for their guidance and support if you need it, but do not want to come across as a moocher and a manipulator for these people? Like, what does that balance look like? And like, how do you maneuver it? So anybody can pop off and talk about this.
I'm always open to mentoring um, authentically. And so what that means is I love for young people to approach me who have studied their craft, who have found all the answers they can find on their own. And when they come into the space with me, it's a higher level of conversation. I really can't, there are things that you can't Google when they come to me. I'll put it that way. So often they'll ask me about my experience. They'll ask me to point them to resources or companies that maybe they can't get in the door on their own. That's where I like mentorship to sit, with a really well-studied person, a well-read person. You have done the due diligence to get this far, and you are really serious about wanting the information that's coming from your mentor. Um, if if you just want to hear the information but don't want to apply the principles and the wisdom, then we really want people to come to us that are serious about what it is that they desire and the direction that they're going. I answer every question, and there are lots of questions in my inbox, but I'm always open to answer a question. So whoever, I'm at Michelle Duffie, you see my name there. So at Instagram is probably the best place to DM me, but I answer every question. So I think all of us, like once just when you have a giving heart, you give, but we also have to balance what our daily asks are of our companies, of our business, of our families. But answering a question is simple. And then sometimes, if you feel connected to that individual, it could be mentorship. But certainly, and as we all know, we don't mentor everyone that asks, because then our whole life would be like a mentorship school. So as Leah said, whether you believe in prayer or um, there's something that will guide you to the right person to ask for mentorship. You should feel connected to that person in some way. That's then I'll leave it there, because you don't just want to ask anyone for mentorship who has a track record of success. Maybe you don't mesh with them just because they're successful. So find someone that you truly connect to, and start DMing them questions that make sense, questions that show that you're studied and that you have, really done your due diligence in the area of which it is that you want additional guidance. So,
I
and
love,
please send me a question. Like, I would love to answer questions after this.
I
And
love
just
it.
to just to piggyback, oh,
Okay,
sorry.
yeah.
I was just going to really quickly say, just to piggyback off of that from that question, you'd be surprised. Most people are truly will be receptive. I feel like, people that have been in the business like we have for long enough. If young people are coming to us with questions, I love helping them, because I feel like we were all in their shoes at one time, and it's only getting more and more challenging out there for the younger people. So, I definitely want to be able to help when I can.
And
I love that.
I was
Okay.
gonna say, just to quickly echo that, like, I think when you come with your specialized questions where you've done research on the person that you're reaching out to, you've done research on the topic, that goes a long way. People, I realized this when I was a law student that people were busy, but once you get into your practice, your jobs, you are really busy. Those 30 minutes that you're giving on a call is 30 minutes that you could have been doing extra work or whatever. And we love to help. But I think when people reach out and you can tell that they're using you as their own personal search engine, that is not taken, as well as someone coming and saying, hey, I've done research on X, Y, and Z. Little, you don't have to really do research on me, but you've done research on these things and you have a specialized question. That goes a long way than someone who seems like they're just trying to get instant gratification without doing 5 minutes of research on Google or chat where they could have gotten that answer in 30 seconds, So just to echo that.
Mhm.
I love that. Gladys, do you want to chime in on this one, and then we're gonna call it a day.
Yeah, I'm gonna call it pretty quick. I agree with everything you young ladies have said. Um, because when I look at myself, almost a 30-year veteran that's been in this business, when these young people come to you and they're not really sure what they want and they have not really done their research, then I think as the interviewer that is listening to them, you become very frustrated. And so I think from everything that you ladies have said, it's critical that when you come to someone with senior experience that has been out there for quite some time, you need to come prepared because it's a waste of time for both parties.
I love this. You all are amazing panelists. Thank you for spending your Sunday night with us, audience and panelists. the knowledge that you dropped tonight, I think was super valuable. And I think whether you're starting your own business or you're starting out, your beginning of your career, like I think all of this was very important information. So I appreciate you all. I appreciate this audience. Thank you so much. And thank you for rounding out the 2026 BRIC Summit. Appreciate you all.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you guys. Have a great
Bye,
evening.
ladies.
Bye.
Success to
Thank you.
all of you. Much success.
Same.
Yes,
Yes,
indeed.
ditto.
Well wishes, guys. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.